My name is Joel Marsh. I'm 32 years old. And on June 7th, 2024, my brother stood in front of 200 people at his rehearsal dinner and called me the backup child. He was given a toast. He had a microphone and a glass of champagne, and an audience that had traveled from 4 states, and he used that moment to say out loud that I was the one our parents hadn't planned for. The one who showed up after they had already gotten it right with him. He laughed after he said it. Several people laughed with him. My mother looked at her plate. My father cleared his throat. I smiled because I have had 32 years of practice at smiling when my brother says something that costs me something. What I didn't know was that my best friend Marcus had been recording from the moment my brother picked up the microphone. And Marcus had a plan I knew nothing about. I want to go back further than the rehearsal dinner because the backup child comment didn't come from nowhere. It came from a family dynamic that had been in place since before I could articulate what a family dynamic was. My brother's name is Kevin. Kevin is 4 years older than me, and from the earliest age I can remember, Kevin was the axis around which our family organized itself. Not because my parents were cruel. They weren't. They were ordinary people who loved both their children and were simply more comfortable with the version of parenthood they had already figured out. Kevin was the first. Kevin's milestones were events. Mine were checkboxes. Kevin's baseball games were attended by both parents every Saturday. My soccer games were attended when there wasn't a conflict. There was often a conflict. I don't tell this to generate sympathy. I tell it because it's the context without which nothing else makes sense. Kevin and I are not enemies. We have never had a dramatic falling out. What we have had is 32 years of a relationship where the terms were set before I arrived, and I have never successfully renegotiated them. Kevin has always spoken about me the way people speak about things they didn't choose but have learned to accommodate. At family gatherings, he introduces me as my little brother, with a specific inflection that functions as a disclaimer. At his engagement party 2 years ago, he gave a toast that mentioned everyone in the room by name except me. When I pointed this out afterward, he said he forgot, which is its own kind of answer. Marcus Webb has been my best friend since we were 11 years old. We met in 6th grade over a shared contempt for the same teacher and have been close in the way that some friendships become structural, the kind that holds things up without announcing itself. Marcus is a quiet, precise person. He works in audio production. He notices things other people don't notice, and he remembers them without being asked to. He was at the engagement party 2 years ago. He was at the rehearsal dinner in June. He had been watching Kevin for 2 years and drawing his own conclusions. Kevin's wedding was June 8th, 2024, in Indianapolis. The rehearsal dinner was the night before at a restaurant called Garland's on the north side. Private room, 200 guests, a full sit-down dinner. Kevin had asked Marcus to be his best man approximately 14 months before the wedding, which surprised me at the time since Kevin and Marcus had always been cordial but not close. I later understood that Kevin had asked Marcus because Marcus is calm and reliable and good at logistics, and Kevin needed someone who would execute without complications. What Kevin did not understand about Marcus is that calm and reliable does not mean without principle. The rehearsal dinner was going normally until Kevin picked up the microphone for the toasts. He started with his fiancée, which was appropriate. He thanked the families, which was standard. Then he told a story about growing up, about being his parents' firstborn, about the weight and privilege of that position. It was a good story, well told, and the room was with him. Then he said he also wanted to acknowledge his brother Joel, the backup child, the one who came along after they had already gotten it right. He said it with a smile. He paused for the laugh. He got it. Then he moved on to thanking the caterer. I counted 11 seconds between when he said backup child and when the laugh started. I spent those 11 seconds looking at the centerpiece on my table, which was a low arrangement of white roses and eucalyptus. I remember the eucalyptus specifically. Then I smiled, which I have explained already. Then I picked up my water glass and drank from it and thought about nothing in particular for the rest of the toast. What I did not see, because I was looking at the centerpiece and then the water glass, was Marcus. Marcus was 3 tables away with his phone out. He had been recording since Kevin picked up the microphone. He recorded the entire toast, including the backup child line, including the pause, including the laugh. When Kevin sat down, Marcus stood up and said he had something to add as best man. Kevin nodded, pleased. The room settled. Marcus walked to the microphone. He thanked Kevin for the toast. He said he wanted to share something with the room, a piece of audio he thought gave some useful context. He pressed play on his phone through the venue's speaker system. What came out of the speakers was a conversation recorded approximately 6 weeks earlier at Kevin's bachelor party in Nashville. Kevin's voice, unmistakable, talking to two other groomsmen in what he clearly believed was a private moment. In the recording, Kevin said, and I am going to be precise here, because Marcus was precise. Joel's going to expect some kind of moment at the wedding. You know how he gets. Just keep him occupied. I don't want to deal with it. Then one of the groomsmen said something indistinct, and Kevin said, look, he's fine. He's just always been the one who needed more than we could give him. The recording was 47 seconds long. The room was completely silent when it ended. 200 people and no sound except the ambient noise of a restaurant that had stopped noticing it was making any. Kevin was looking at Marcus with an expression I had never seen on my brother's face. My mother had her hand over her mouth. My father was very still. Kevin's fiancée, whose name is Amy, was looking at Kevin with an expression that was harder to read, but that I have thought about several times since. Marcus set the phone down on the podium. He said, I've known Joel for 21 years. He has never needed more than anyone could give him. He has needed exactly what everyone in this room needs, to be seen as something other than an afterthought. Then he said, I wish Kevin and Amy every happiness. And he sat down. The dinner continued, because dinners continue. People ate their food. Conversations resumed in the careful way that conversations resume when a room has witnessed something that cannot be unwitnessed. Kevin did not speak to Marcus for the rest of the evening. He did not speak to me either, which I understood. What he said to me when he finally called 4 days after the wedding was that Marcus had blindsided him and that it was a betrayal and that he expected me to be as upset about it as he was. I told him I was not. He asked me if I had known. I told him truthfully that I had not. He didn't believe me. I don't know that I would have believed me either. The wedding happened. Kevin and Amy are married. I attended the ceremony and the reception, and I danced once, and ate the salmon, and spoke to my parents and left at 10. My father found me near the coat check and said, Son, I didn't know he thought of you that way. I said, Dad, I think some part of you did. He nodded. We stood there for a moment, then I got my coat. Marcus and Kevin have not spoken since the rehearsal dinner. Marcus told me he had been carrying the recording for 6 weeks trying to decide what to do with it. He said he played it at the dinner because the backup child comment was one thing he could not sit through without a response. He said he was sorry if it made things harder for me. I told him it didn't. What it made was visible. Something that had been operating invisibly for 32 years suddenly had sound, a voice, 47 seconds of audio that existed outside my own memory. That is not nothing. That is actually quite a lot. Kevin and I talk occasionally, not often. The terms of our relationship have not fundamentally changed, but the architecture is different now. There is something in the room with us that wasn't there before. A shared awareness of what was said and what was played and what 200 people heard. He has not called me the backup child again. He has not called me much of anything. I am choosing to read that as a form of progress. My parents have been quieter with Kevin since June. Not cold, just quieter. My mother called me in August and said she had been thinking about my soccer games. She didn't say anything else about it. She didn't need to. I told her it was okay. She said she knew. We talked about other things for 20 minutes and then said goodbye. It was one of the better conversations we have had. Marcus is still my best friend. He always will be. Some people have a Marcus in their life and don't recognize it until a specific moment in a restaurant in Indianapolis when a phone connects to a speaker system and 47 seconds of audio fills a room. I recognized it before that, but June 7th made it undeniable. If this story meant something to you, drop a comment. Tell me, would you have played the recording or would you have let it go? I want to know. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.